Good afternoon, Canastota. I'm Sean Becerra, Superintendent of the Canastota Central School District. Today is Friday, May 8th, and this is the 5th edition of our weekly school operations video update series. This week I'll be focusing on two important topics. One is our end-of-year activity schedule, and the second is the 2020-21 budget and board elections process and schedule. But before we jump into our main topics for today, I'd like to provide you updated numbers on our meal distribution operation. I'm pleased to announce that through Thursday, May 7th, 56,202 meals have been served to our students, with an average of 669 students receiving meals on a daily basis since the beginning of the school shutdown period. Today's distribution will once again include meals for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Thanks to all of our staff for helping us continue this vital service. Okay, so let's talk about what's on everybody's mind these days, the end-of-year schedule. The most frequent question I get in the last few weeks is, what's happening to graduation, end-of-year award ceremonies, moving up ceremonies, all of the things that are a staple of the traditional end-of-year calendar. While we've had multiple plans under consideration, we're simply unable to finalize plans until the rules of the game are finalized and clarified by the powers that be. We are in a holding pattern until further clarification from state and local authorities regarding which of these scenarios are viable options. For example, will there be any flexibility with a limitation of 10 people at public gatherings that is currently in place? Could we hold in-person ceremonies if we could accommodate appropriate distancing requirements? Obviously, our preference would be to be able to have in-person events if we can, one, do it within established legal parameters, and two, do it in a manner that is safe for all participants. As these questions are clarified, we'll be able to provide more specific information. In the worst-case scenario, we will always have the capability of live streaming end-of-year events. Wherever possible, in whatever format the event takes place, we intend to stick to the dates and times already on the calendar. In every instance, we will relay information at least 1 week in advance to allow families to make necessary arrangements to participate. Please continue to be patient as we all are eager to firm up plans for the end of the year. While we deal with a lot of uncertainty, there is a very special event that's rock solid that I'm pleased to share with you today. Please mark your calendar for Thursday, June 25th. At 7:30 p.m., a special video tribute to the Canastota class of 2020 will air on CNY Central's CW6. That's right, the entire 26-minute television segment will be devoted entirely to recognizing our seniors in our school district. Please spread the word as we're putting together a top-notch program that honors our seniors and the proud history and legacy of the Canastota Central School District. This will be an awesome opportunity to send our seniors off in style and to show everyone what we already know. That Canastota is an awesome place to be, and as I remind everyone every week, the hometown of champions. More on this as the date approaches. Now, let's talk about the biggest development impacting schools this past week, the new process and timeline for the annual budget and board election vote. As you know, everything that we've become used to regarding dates and process has been thrown out the window, so let's review some of the key details that are now available. Number one, the annual vote is now scheduled for Tuesday, June 9th. Number two, the vote will be conducted entirely through absentee ballot. There will be no on-site voting. This is not unique to Canastota. This is the requirement for all school districts in the state of New York. Number three, the 2020-21 proposed budget will be adopted at a meeting on May 21st. And finally, number four, the public hearing is scheduled for 6 p.m. on Thursday, May 28th. The hearing will be live streamed as by order of the governor. The public is not allowed to gather for an in-person budget presentation as would happen in a normal year. In each district update leading up to the vote, I'll be joined by our school business official, Nick Panuccio, to discuss crucial information related to this highly unusual budget year. Today, we'll be discussing key differences between this year's budget process from a normal year's process, and we will share with you critical information that we're still waiting to receive in the coming days leading up to the vote. So let's go get some answers. All right, I'm back here in my office, and I'm joined by our school business official, Nick Panuccio, who's over in his office. And we wanted to dive right into what our 2020-21 school budget picture looks like, particularly given the fact that this year's process looks very different from a typical process. So thanks for agreeing to do this, Nick, and let's dive right into some questions. First of all, Nick, can you start off by just describing for us what a typical budget process would look like?
Yes, Sean. In December, I begin to roll over our expenses for the next year. For example, I raise salaries and hourly wages according to everyone's contract. The third week in January is when the first governor's state aid numbers come out. This is usually an increase from the prior year. I will look at the increases in expenses and then the increase in state aid to see how much the difference is. During this time, state and local people who hold public office will lobby for more state aid for schools. On April 1st, the state budget is sent out with the updated state aid amounts to school districts. Typically, this is slightly higher than the January numbers because of the lobbying that happens. At that time, the school district will look at the efficiencies in their processes and make necessary changes. Then the district will see how much tax revenue we need to make up any of the differences between the expenses and revenues. It is a law in New York State that school districts have to have a balanced budget, so revenues must equal expenses. The school district will then hold a budget vote the third Tuesday in May. However, this year's process looks much different.
Okay, so let's get into to some of the ways that what we're looking at now is different from what you just described.
Right. Well, this year's process looks different because of COVID-19. Everybody knows that what's going on. And the implication that it has on New York State revenue is huge. When I explained how the typical budget process looks, I stated that the usually school district will receive a slight increase on April 1st from the January state numbers. This year, foundation aid was frozen for all school districts in New York State. We were supposed to receive $10,843,288 in foundation aid from the January runs. Instead, now we are receiving $10,672,278. This is a decrease of $171,010. Friday, May 1st, through an executive order from Governor Cuomo, school districts were told that the new budget date will be Tuesday, June 9th. Governor Cuomo mentioned that we could have up to 20% more of our foundation aid taken away due to COVID-19 if the federal government does not come up with another stimulus package that includes school district shortfalls in it.
All right, so let's talk a little bit more about what foundation aid is. Can you just sort of go over that?
Yes, foundation aid is the largest amount of state aid that is sent to school districts. In Canastota, foundation aid is 67% of our total of our state aid. Foundation aid is a very complicated formula comprised of 10-tier calculations that includes many factors such as enrollment and the wealth ratio of the district. Typically, how much people make is included in that factor. For this questions and answers, I'll just keep it simple. If you're interested, you can look up the calculation methods yourself, or you can give me a call at any time at the district office, and I'll try to explain more to you.
All right, so we've been talking about how the timeline, the process, everything this year is altered. So when are we anticipating that we're going to get some clarification on what our actual state aid numbers are going to be for next year?
That's a good question, Sean. School districts are supposed to get clarification on May 15th, according to the Director of Budget from New York State. Governor Cuomo said that he will review the revenue that New York State collects up until April 30th. If the revenue collected is down, which means the tax revenue they collect from businesses, then he will have to decrease our state aid to school districts from anywhere between 0 to 20%. Every school district will have the same percentage deducted. I totally anticipate a decrease in these numbers because New York State is in a pause and revenue is down in New York State due to the pause. They're not collecting tax revenue and other sources of revenue.
Okay, so that's an important point. So I want to make sure everybody understands what we're talking about. How much are we potentially talking about? How much aid is still in question?
20% of our foundation aid is in question, according to Governor Cuomo, which in dollars is $2,134,456. Since we will not know what our foundation aid will be until May 15th, we're unable to have a balanced budget right now. We will have 6 days to balance the budget for the May 21st deadline. That is when our Board of Education will adopt the budget for vote on June 9th. And as always, as we get more information, we will communicate that to everybody. Every week, we will update you on exactly what's going on with the budget and the guidelines that we're getting from the state, if anything has changed. So if you stay tuned in, we'll give you another update next week. But Sean, thank you. If you have any more questions, if not, then we can continue to talk on it next week.
Okay, great. Thanks for that update, Nick. As I said at the beginning, we're going to continue to do this over the next several weeks. Nick and I will be sharing relevant information with everyone. Hopefully by next week's update, we'll have some fresh information. So stay tuned next week. Until then, everybody stay healthy. Have a great weekend. Go Raiders.